everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are all doing really well. In today's video, I actually wanted to talk about how to become a financial advisor. I am undergoing the graduate diploma of financial planning so that I can get accredited in the next year or so that I can actually and finally give personal financial advice. So if you're interested in finding out more, then please keep watching. Now, I do excuse for the new setup. I'm still trying to figure out my studio. I know it's been so long since I've, moved into this apartment and I'm still yet to figure it out. But now that assignments are done and out of the way, I'm really excited to get this all underway. So without further ado, let's just jump into the video. Now, the first thing to think about is why would you need to get a financial services license? So a few of the reasons may include that you want to be able to provide financial advice, you want to be able to give targeted and personal financial advice. So for that, obviously you do need to become accredited and be a financial advisor to do that. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason may just be that you want to give general financial advice. Now, general financial advice is advice that is not sort of targeted or tailored to someone's personal needs, their financial situation, their values, objectives, etc. So that's just generic financial advice. Now, me being a personal finance content creator, I've obviously gone down the route of becoming a financial advisor so that I can give financial advice generally on my YouTube channel as well, but I also want to be able to give personal financial advice. So for that reason, I do need to have a financial services license. Now, this is the way that I've gone about it. There are many other ways out there that I believe that you can actually get an authorized representation from someone who is actually a license holder. So they can actually provide you with an authorized representative sort of license and you sort of work under them, but the limitations obviously are there in that you don't have full freedom and it's obviously very costly as well that way. So I thought instead of going down that route, I would just go out and get my own license and, set up a business potentially down the track as well. So it gives me full freedom, full flexibility, and that's the reason sort of why I've decided to go down that route. So with social media, we all know that the income fluctuates, and just for my peace of mind, my sense of security, I just wanted to do this. And I just think it's a great push from ASIC, and it really got me thinking about my future and my career as well. So enough rambling, I'm going to get started. Now, from January 1st, 2019, there were actually new education and training standards which actually applied to financial advisors. Prior to that, I believe, I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me on this, but I believe financial advisors didn't actually have to do the professional year that is required and also potentially not have to sit the financial advisor exam. Whereas if you've become a financial advisor after that point, you have to do a whole lot of education, a whole lot of training to make sure that you are accredited. Now, let's go through it step by step. Now, this is given my personal situation and the way that I went about it. So obviously, as I said, there are other ways that you can do this. There will be a lot of information available up on ASIC as well, and I'll leave the link to ASIC and all the information guidelines down below in case you are interested in becoming a financial advisor. So if you're in a similar situation to myself in that you've studied a commerce degree, I personally studied a commerce degree, and I've got a double major in economics and commercial law. Now, if you are someone like me and you haven't actually studied financial planning at university and you don't actually have a qualification that says, Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in financial planning, if it doesn't have the word financial planning in there, then most likely you will have to do what I'm currently doing, and that is taking up additional study. But if you have done that, then I believe there's a different route for you. You don't actually have to do a lot of the subjects that I'm currently doing, and you may just have to do the ethics component. So make sure you look into that and speak to someone from ASIC, but I believe you should know if you have done an accredited degree, you should know because it should be FASIA approved. FASIA is a board which is no longer around at the moment, and the Treasury has actually taken up responsibility to manage financial advisors. So yeah, you would know yourself if you have done this, but personally for me, I haven't, so let's keep going. Now, the institution that I'm going through with is called Kaplan. They are an Australian-based institute, I believe, and I've just chosen to go through them because they have worked out to be cost-effective for me as well, and I like that they've got an online sort of study program, and their website just seemed to be very simple, straightforward for me to use. So before jumping on to your preferred institution that you do want to take up this study, my one was personally called the Graduate Diploma of Financial Planning. Before you jump into that, I want you to have a look at the prerequisites to even enter that program, because you do need to comply and you do need to make sure that you actually meet the requirements. So for me, I was able to meet the requirements because I had done a degree that was around economics, around business, commerce. So if you haven't actually done something relevant, then unfortunately you may need to undertake undergraduate study or do additional subjects to be able to get into this program. So make sure you have a look into that. But if you have got a relevant degree and you think you've got a relevant degree, then you can go ahead and put your application forward. And essentially what Kaplan required of me was that they wanted my academic transcript from university, and they also wanted to see my graduate certificate as well that I had actually passed from my degree. Now, I've obviously chosen to do an online study program because it just works well with my hours, with my work, but you can obviously choose to do face-to-face learning as well. So that means going into, tutorials, going into lectures, things like that, if that is something that you prefer. Now, once you've been selected into the program and you've been accepted, then you'll have to undertake, obviously, the subjects required. So for me, I have to undertake 8 subjects. I'll go through the subjects very quickly. I've just got them listed here. So I need to study 8 subjects. So the first one is economics and legal context for financial planning. I've got ethics and professionalism. I've got superannuation and retirement advice. I've then got insurance advice, estate and succession planning. I've got tax and commercial law for financial planning, which is actually going to be really good because I did commercial law at university. And then you've got client engagement skills. And then finally, you have investment advice. So as you can see, it's very, very targeted. It's very specific. And obviously that's sort of what you assume would be the standard if you are, going to become a financial advisor and have to provide financial advice on a range of financial products. So as part of these 8 subjects, I've only done the first 2. I'm still in the progress of the first 2 subjects. I'm still going through it. I've just completed my last assignment. And as part of the first 2 subjects, I've had to do a few tasks. I've had an analysis task to do, which is worth about 20%. And then I've had like a really big assignment, which I've just finished yesterday. And I submitted for both of the subjects that I've been doing. And that's 40%. So there are definitely assignments involved. And in terms of time required to become a financial advisor, in terms of how much time you need to put in on a weekly basis, they do allocate about 120 hours overall over the course of 10 weeks. And of course, once you've completed the assignments within the subjects, you've also got to sit for a final exam for that subject as well. So it's just like university, but it's all really online. Now, once you've actually completed your studies, you actually have to sit for the financial advisor exam, which is a national exam. And this exam usually goes for 3 hours. And it covers components around, your obligations under the Corporations Act. You've got to answer questions around anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, the Privacy Act, decision-making, consumer behavior, and ethics. Now, once you've completed the financial advisor exam, you'll then go ahead and proceed with your professional year. So what does it mean by professional year? You guessed right, I have to go back into the office, I have to work for someone and be mentored, be supervised so that I can actually learn the skills at a practical level so that I can be able to give good financial advice and learn the tricks of the trade. Now, there's a few things to note. So what you can actually do is, and this is part of the requirements, if you do want to go ahead and accelerate and get this over and done with like I am wanting to, you can actually go ahead and start working a little bit earlier. But what that means is you can do your first sort of 2 quarters of your work experience in the last 6 months of your study. So once you've done your first half of work experience for the first half of the year, and you've also just completed your last 4 subjects of this degree, then you can actually go ahead and sit the exam. Now, once you've passed that exam, you can then actually go ahead and continue the last 2 quarters of your work experience. So that just means, you don't have to, first finish all your studies, sit the exam, and then do your work experience. You can actually do it simultaneously in the last 2 quarters of your studying, and once you pass the exam, then you have to complete the last 2 quarters of your professional year, and that's sort of the requirement. So that's essentially what I'm going to be doing, just to save time on that. And then once you've done that, you actually, when you go ahead and do your last 2 quarters of work experience, you then become a provisional relevant provider or a provisional, financial advisor. But unfortunately, you can't actually give your own financial advice, as in set up your own business or whatnot. You do need to complete all of the work experience, but you can actually give unsupervised or indirectly supervised advice when you're working for someone as part of that professional year plan. Then once you've actually gone ahead and completed that, yes, you'll be a financial advisor and you will be accredited, but you do also need to undertake on an annual basis something called CPD points, which stands for Continuing Professional Development. You essentially have to do 40 hours of training or professional development. So these are basically activities that extend your financial advisor capabilities. It builds on your knowledge, your awareness, your skills, and it just makes sure that you're up to date with regulations and that you're up to, the relevant news and what's going on in that industry. And there you have it. So that's a little bit about the process sort of involved as to what you need to do to become a financial advisor. Of course, as I mentioned, there is a different route as well as becoming an authorized representative, but then you do need to rent out someone else's license, which I believe and I have heard costs around $4,000 to $5,000 per month, which I think is a hefty sort of price to pay. But then you may be asking, what are the fees involved with having your own financial services license? Then of course there are more costs involved, but it just gives you the freedom. You then can work on clients however you wish, and then you obviously won't be bound by all the regulation and all of the compliance involved as an authorized representative. And I just personally feel that if you are paying $4,000 to $5,000 per month, that's a big portion and a big chunk of your income that has to be paid towards that sort of fee. So I just think it might be better off for me to get this over and done with once off. Obviously, yes, I will be having compliance costs on an annual basis and fees and operational costs, but I am potentially looking at setting up my own personal finance advisory later on. So I think, you guys have suggested that I do that because you'd love to get advice from me. So I think that might be something that I look into. Obviously, I still have a while away to go before I complete all of this. But essentially, that is the process that I'm undertaking and the steps that I'm undertaking to become accredited. Now, I do plan to get into the workforce in about November, December this year. So that'll be interesting because businesses will be shut down. So I'm not sure how that will work. But let's see. I do plan to get into the workforce by the end of this year so that I am, ready and set for next year. And I'm going to be working, I'm going to be studying, I'm going to be content creating full time. But yeah, I'm going to leave this video here because it's getting way too long. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and you found it helpful, useful, and I will be making sure I leave all of the information down below just so that you can have a look for your situation, your circumstances. But that's it, guys. I'm going to leave this video here. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks, guys.